This is my mother a year ago this month, showing off one of her favorite tea roses. Shortly after she had cultivated the garden on her hands and knees, I had caught her doing that, and I said, it was like 90 degrees. What are you doing? After she was elderly, but she still was having a great life. This is the last photo taken of my mother. This photo was taken at her favorite restaurant, Cafe 128 in St. Paul. She had hosted a birthday party for me at the end of October, and we had an awful lot of fun that night. My mother could never have been there that night, hosting that party that meant so much to her and so much to all of us, had it not been for hospice. I had a lot of reasons written down about why hospice was so powerful to our family, and then I stood back and I realized they really fell into two categories. The first was hospice let my mother live, and before I thought it was about helping her die, but the 2 months that she had, they let her live. She could never have gone out on that evening in October had the hospice not been there saying, Charlotte, you can go. Here's how we can make sure you can go, and you can have fun, and you can be comfortable, and you can breathe in that restaurant. And she went, and we had a great time. They helped her still be able to get out to see her roses. We were trimming and cultivating them at that point, but they let her continue to live rather than continuing to prepare to die. Day in and day out, it was still about her getting the most of what she wanted to get on her terms out of life while she was here. I would never have understood that about hospice until we experienced it, and they kept reminding her of that and us. The second thing that hospice gave us, this is where I apologize if I get emotional, they gave us that one last shot, that one last chance to tell this woman how much we loved her. And when I left my job 4 years ago, it was to thank her. I couldn't have had the career I had. I couldn't have had, I'd say, so much in my life without her. And it was my time to turn around and let her know on no uncertain terms how much we loved her and appreciated her. That's what hospice, the gift that hospice gave us so we could give to her. She was able to die in her home, and we knew with my mother there was something so integral to her. The first was her family, and the second, I'll be honest, was her garden. If you took my mother away from her roses, you took half of my mother out of her. And so we were very obsessed with keeping my mother in her home, and that worked great. But in those final days, she would still whisper in her dying bed, "Did you water Gertrude Jekyll?" Yes, I watered Gertrude Jekyll, her favorite English rose. It was just, if we had taken her out of there, it would have been to suck the life out of her before it was really her time. So we were able to keep her in her home. We set up camp that week. When she was unconscious, we knew, hospice told us, okay, now we're in the final days. The food came in, the wine came in, the kids, the grandchildren started stopping by. I mean, it just became this 24-hour camp. It was on her terms. She stayed in her bedroom. The laughter was around her. At night, she was a night owl. We would feed her Belgian chocolate ice cream because now she didn't have to worry about calories, she told us. It was like, no, I guess you don't. But fed her Belgian chocolate coffee or ice cream. And if she heard people laughing in another room at 11 o'clock at night, she'd ask me, who are they? Make them come in here. She wanted the crowd, the wine, all around her laughing. That was her terms. That's how she wanted her last moments. She wanted fun, laughter, family around her. We were able to give her that. They took the guesswork out of everything. I tell you, I am not medical in the least. In fact, the only time I've ever cheated in life is when I had my science partner dissect my pig for me in high school. I know nothing about the and here I was just, next thing I know, I'm doing something with a catheter, and I'm giving her morphine, and they gave me such confidence and empowered us. They told us what was coming next. Boxes of supplies came long before I thought, what the heck do we need these things for? Well, in a few weeks, they were the perfect things to keep my mother comfortable. They empowered us, and they trained us in ways we never imagined. And because of that, the fear was gone. The fear just left the room. There was no fear in my mother because she could sense we weren't scared. She wasn't scared. And so rather than all the fear and the unknown, we were able to instead spend that time sitting around her bed, holding her hand, laughing, talking to her about what she wanted to talk about as she just became more and more quiet and kind of started kind of leaving us a little bit. I could go on and on about the hospice people, the staff, the nurses. They were beyond description in terms of how their knowledge, their care. But because of hospice, because they let her live, and she was somebody who was so about living, and because they let us give that final gift, our obsession about letting this woman know how much we loved her, how much we appreciated her, they let us give her that gift. She died the most beautiful and peaceful death I could ever imagine. You know, she said her goodbyes. It was absolutely, really a very, very powerful last day. But that wouldn't have happened without hospice. Just like hospice doesn't start with dying, it really starts with living. It didn't end with her death either. The hospice program was there for us from the moment she passed away. We thought maybe that was when it ended. One of the most meaningful things, at least to my brothers, and it was very meaningful to me, they just swooped in. Everything that was a reminder of her death was gone. It just, the oxygen machine, the hospital bed, it just disappeared, because I think they know for a lot of families that's just a reminder. It was gone in no time. And then the calls started. What can we do to help? And that's when I realized, again, hospice was about living. It was about her getting the most out of her final days on her terms, and about how we continued living after that. Because long after she was buried, we still had the wonderful, wonderful support of hospice. But when I look at this photo, I still think about her death. And my friend said, that's terrible. And I said, you know, it's really a beautiful thing, because when I look at her photo, her death is actually a beautiful thing to me. It was a wonderful experience. And my mother was somebody who, when something was really fun, she wanted to do it over and over again, sometimes to the point where, you know, Mom, we're not doing that again, you know, play Nintendo. Or we took her to Disney World once, and she said, oh my gosh, is this too expensive to do every year? Yeah, it is. You know, I mean, she just, and I really think the whole week that she died, she probably would say, oh, could we do that again? I mean, because the family was there, the laughter, the love, what people said, the talking to everybody. It was that beautiful of an experience. The real defining moment of hospice for me was on about day 4 or 5, so about Thursday. She passed away on Sunday. Jenny, the bath lady from hospice, as we came to know her, had come to see my mother, and my mother was confused as to who was in the room and where she was. She whispered to me, and she said, who's here? And I said, Jenny, the bath lady. And, well, where am I? And I knew she was confused because she was in a hospital bed rather than it was right next to her bed, which had been a 4-poster bed of her parents. I said, well, Mom, you're in your bedroom, and to your left are the windows that look out onto your front yard and the street, and Jenny, the bath lady's over here in the chair. And I said, Mom, you're right here. You're right here in your bedroom. And through her little eyes, she just squeezed my hand, and she said, thank you. I knew you would do this for me. And there is no price tag that can be put on my mother saying that, because I realized then we made it. But the final gift we wanted to give her, this woman understood how much she was loved. And I also understood when she said, I know you would do this for me. I also understood this. I had this team of people behind me helping me do this for her. And I'll be forever grateful. Very strong things were happening in the room where my mother was dying. And as we were trying to get our arms around it, the single most very helpful thing came from hospice. People said, did it come from your church? Did it come from, you know, neighborhood? No, it came from Allina Hospice. We felt that it was so powerful that we reprinted it on my mother's funeral program, and I know many people have asked to see it again. And it's called Gone From My Sight. It's a poem by Henry Van Dyke. It says, I am standing upon the seashore, a ship at my side spreads her white sails to the moving breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength. I stand and watch her until, at length, she hangs like a speck of white cloud, just where the sea and sky come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, there, she is gone. Gone where? Gone from my sight. That is all. She is just as large in mast, hull, and spar as she was when she left my side. and she is just as able to bear her load of living freight to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone says, "There, she is gone," there are other eyes watching her coming, and other voices ready to shout, "Here she comes." And that is dying. Thank you, Allina Hospice.